Detroit is different.
Detroit is different. Detroit is different.
I can feel it.
Detroit is different. Detroit is different.
I can feel it.
Detroit is different.
Detroit is different.
Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios. Had a rich political discussion about a lot of things happening in 2026 off camera, because the off camera stuff sometimes helps with the thought process and so much that oozes into the on camera and really just like in past, because not just me, I'm sure he gets a lot of it, but people call you all the time like, hey, what's going on? People in town, out of town, that used to live here and all of that. But I have in studio a brother that last year, it's like I was seeing him a whole lot last year because we were working on a project together with Bridge Detroit Next. It was a series interviewing many of the candidates, definitely for mayor and then even in other races. It was good just seeing how that all comes together. And y'all already know Detroit is Different is certainly a supporter of Bridge Detroit. I'm a supporter of Bridge Detroit. You all should definitely already be connecting with that. But he's a writer. Y'all should kind of know that through journalism and many, many more things. A man on the street with the people. Bryce Huffman, how you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks again for the lovely intro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely. You in the green, matching with the green, bridged out. I'm with it. So we always start these Detroit is Different with your roots to your family. How many generations deep are your people to this area?
We are...
Okay, that's a bit.
I want to say 3 generations.
I got you.
I want to say 3.
All right. Who was the first up this way and from where?
Granddad on my dad's side.
Okay.
From Alabama by way of the Bahamas. Mom on my dad's side, similar, came through the South up to Detroit from the Bahamas. My mom's side of the family is originally from Philly.
Wow.
So, we got a lot of people in Detroit now. Most of my cousins and relatives are here. So, definitely deeply connected in Detroit. People really, funny enough, they recognize my siblings out in public.
Wow.
And they'll be like, man, I just saw your brother doing yada yada. And I'm like,
talking to people on the street.
Yeah. At Dietrich's last week, ran into a girl. She was like, hey, you're Bryce, right? And I had never met her before. And she's like, I know your brother. And I just saw him the other day. Yeah, so
that
deeply
works.
Connected in Detroit.
All right, so Alabama, definitely some direct roots all the time, but the Bahamas, that is not necessarily always these roots. And also people, I think, from the islands usually end up in like a little further east. You talked about Philly, but New York,
New York,
Boston,
Philly.
That ways.
Yep. But they ended up here in Detroit.
Okay.
Thank God.
Okay.
Because this is my city.
I got
but yeah, a lot of people don't know I have a Bahamian ancestry until I start cooking some food for them.
Oh, there you go. It's like more hot sauce.
Yeah.
More hot sauce.
Hey, if I make you some jerk wings.
Okay. I'm with it. Okay. Now we speak of something that man has to manifest. So when your people move here, what side of town, what neighborhood they move to, where do they start navigating the Detroit journey?
I know for my dad's side, it was east side for sure.
Okay.
Mom's grew up on the east side until she was maybe like 6 or 7, and then they moved over to the University District, which is where I grew up.
All right.
So most of my Detroit journey is as a West Sider.
Okay.
But yeah, cousins and aunties lived on the east side. R.I.P. Uncle Smitty and Evelyn. They had a house right over in Conant Gardens.
All right.
Basically like half a mile from Anderson Memorial, which is where my mom's side of the family was deeply connected. If anyone knows the name Cleveland Anderson Sr., deep Anderson roots in the Detroit area. So yeah, that's great uncle, I guess would be the term.
And just recently, another brother in journalism, I'm talking about, his roots go there too. Like I say, that Conant Gardens, it's one of the rich historically Black communities, and those families go back there.
Oh yeah,
definitely. Aaron Foley was talking about it, but so many more. You guys know these Conant Gardens stories. They exist. People definitely connect over there. Did you ever visit that as a child? You remember that community?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I didn't know the name of the neighborhood until I was maybe like 8.
Yeah.
when I started listening to like Slum Village, and they would shout out Conant Gardens.
Yes.
And I'd be like, oh yeah, that's Conant. That's kind of where the neighborhood border is. Okay, so that's how I really knew the name of the neighborhood.
Wow.
But the area, yeah, we went to church at Anderson Memorial until I was like maybe 6.
Okay.
So I was over there like all the time.
Okay.
And my mom's like a church lady, so she's not just go to Sunday service. She's like, I'm there to help volunteer. I'm there at Bible study. When there's funerals and repasses and stuff, I'm helping serve food. So yeah, anyone who knows my mom, they know her from that.
Well, you fallen asleep on a pew a day or two, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah.
That's how you get the back strength. You be like, oh, old school pews. Now church is different now. It's like they got like the plush chairs and all this.
Yeah. So at Anderson Memorial, they had cushioning on the wooden benches, but that was not.
Oh no,
that was not soft cushioning.
It's definitely more of an aesthetic effect.
Yeah. It looks comfortable, and then you sit on it, and you're like, ooh.
Yeah, there we go. But definitely. So, in that, you said University District, another
University District in Bagley neighborhood.
Okay.
So my dad, when he was a kid, grew up on Ohio Street, right over Ohio and Santa Maria, So that is where my aunt still lives. So I'm still very familiar with the area. Okay. Right over by Marygrove College. So when we used to, at Bridge Detroit, we used to have office space in Marygrove. So every once in a while, I'd be like, all right, I'm done working. Let me go make sure Aunt Kathy's good.
All right. All right, maybe get some food or whatever else is going on over that way sometimes.
Right.
So I love it. And that community is it's different. I sometimes used to call it, like when I was a kid, it's like them the long streets, because if you ride a bike.
Okay, so it's funny you say that. I didn't know that was a thing before my generation to call it that. I had a friend that grew up right on Cherry Lawn, so like one block over from where my aunt was. And when his friends would ride their bikes, that's what they called it. Yep. And I just thought like, oh, this is like a thing that younger people say, whatever. I did not know that was a thing that people were saying before that.
Oh man, it's like damn near like you feel like, whoa, like sometimes, like you hear these stories, like them people in like New York or something. It's like, yo, if you on 52nd and they on 51st, you don't even know each other. That's kind of how long those streets are.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's like purer than the 6 Mile. You like, damn.
Yeah. And then, so I grew up on Porchside. So in the University District, Porchside is the last street before that private like golf course district, right? Mm-hmm. So if the ball went over the fence, you had to go all the way around to get it, right? Ooh. So one day, I was like 7, and it's the summertime. So like me and my cousins are over. We're playing with the football. Football goes over the fence. We just hear this big burly voice from over there like, yeah, I'll just bring it to you. I got my car right here. I'll just drive it over. Out of the car steps Jerome Bettis. Because his parents lived in the house behind ours, and I never knew. Wow. And I was a kid, so, Jerome Bettis is, you don't call you to bus unless you're a large person, right? He gets out of the car, and my mom is like looking out the window. She's like, is that Jerome Bettis?
Hilarious.
So yeah, I got to meet him when I was a kid. And then I saw him for the 2024 draft. Reminded him of that, and he was like, oh man, like that's crazy that like you remember that story. Yeah. So
well, definitely you guys know that Detroit is different, or me. I'm definitely a friend of the Bettis family, first through John and my bus. So Certainly. My bus had, he got, like, that was one of the first things he bought with getting to the NFL. The home over there, like, in the, I guess, like, the golf district or whatever. Okay, basically, if you're driving down the drive around Palmer Park and then, like, you fit this gate, you need access to get to that gate.
You're driving on Pontchartrain. There's the gate on one side, and then on Fairview, which is the street behind us, you could only get in on the 7 Mile side. Like, I don't think the 6 Mile gate is ever open. So you got to go all the way around.
Yep. So, yeah, it would take forever. But, yeah, definitely. So that's a legendary story right there. And that community, too, also, as we know, just a relationship that I don't necessarily know if they uplift this all the time, but because what it took for UD to be built, students have scholarships over there to UD that I don't know how explicitly that's shared, but that does exist.
Oh no, I think it's known. I went to UAD, the high school, so I think that's just like a well-known thing. I don't know.
Thing.
I hope we're not giving away trade secrets over here.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Right now, it's like UAD's been going under a remodeling. It seems like it's taking a while. So I'm very interested in what the new front face will look like in that community. But so that neighborhood, you know, Jay-Zoo is over there.
Yep.
A lot of athletes.
I did senior service at Jay-Zoo senior year of high school. So I spent a lot of time in that neighborhood.
Okay. Okay. All right. What stands out being a kid over there? Like I say, it's a lot of I had like a lot of friends over that way, but definitely a neighborhood with a lot of kids. I mentioned athletes, like, yeah, it was that was one of the few neighborhoods like I go, you know, visit a friend and it's like you know, football and basketball is, I think, what people usually play where we grew up. But that was one of the few neighborhoods where it's enough kids where you could even play baseball sometimes. But I remember it like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We had enough kids that really what was going on when I was a kid was only a few of us had a basketball rim in our backyard. So there was the hoops over at Barbara Jordan, but the surface was always so crap that it would be easier to just play in someone's backyard. So it'd be a group of kids kind of walking around like, who's home, who's got a ball, whose parents are going to let us hoop in their backyard. And for one summer in particular, that just seemed to be our house more than any other house on the block. So there were always, like, my brother's friends, he's 5 years older than me, so his friends would always be over just hooping. And I wasn't that good at basketball, but every once in a while I could impress with a nice shot or something.
But also, I mean, it should be known, when you're younger and you play with older, you get better at whatever sport that is. So it's like, if you're playing your brother's friends and they're 3 years older than you, and then you go back to playing like the kids that are your age, it's like you'd be like Jordan out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because like you just realize, I can shoot over all of these kids now.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So definitely I could see like the gathering of that. And then also other things that like stand out in that community too, along with like the college and everything. But also it's not like, I guess, the Livernois business district and stuff, but it's also like, you know, I remember Records for You was over there. Like, you got a lot of stores kind of like in that area around 6 Mile too.
Yeah. So I'm from more of the 7 Mile side, but you know, once I got old enough to ride my bike wherever, you know, we were all over the neighborhood. But the coolest thing about that area is, even when, you know, before the Avenue of Fashion was kind of revamped, even before that, there were always businesses over there. The people over there always had kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. There was always someone trying to open something. There was always someone trying to get their hustle on. So the Detroit hustle spirit is not just reserved for rougher parts of the city. You see it over there too.
Oh, very, very much so. I mean, when we talk about like, that's an interview I need to get. I need to interview Mike Banks. He's been over there forever with his tennis shop. But yeah, some businesses that have been there for the longest of time, like even through the arcs of, like, I guess, as you say, like revitalizing and things like that. But you know, and then depending on how far back you go, people be like, "Oh, I remember B. Seagulls was over there." That is not my era, but I know that did exist. You know what I'm saying? So in that flow. All right, what are your parents doing as you're coming up and going to school? What paths are they taking?
So my dad sold insurance for State Farm. He had his own agency right over on Pallister. When I was like real little, he had it on East Jefferson, which was awesome. We used to go up there to watch the fireworks.
All right.
But then when I was like maybe 4 or 5, that was when Dennis Archer was doing that whole eminent domain thing, trying to get the casinos on the riverfront. So my dad was like, well, screw it. I'm going to go somewhere else if that's what y'all are trying to do. Obviously, that didn't pan out for the casino district, luckily for all of us. But he ended up moving over to Pallister, so like right on Pallister in the Lodge. I think it's a Union Hall now. But yeah, his name used to be on the side of it, and kids at my elementary school would be like, "Man, I think I saw your dad's name on the sign." Because there's not that many Huffmans around, you know what I mean?
True indeed.
And then my mom also worked for State Farm in their marketing department, but not in the same agency. Yeah, so she was the one, she worked out in Livonia, and now is how I got kind of my bigger awareness of like the Metro Detroit area. When I was real little, before I ever like went to where her office was, I just thought Detroit was the whole world, you know? I thought when the river ended, There's another half of the world on the other side.
So it's like
But
China
everything
is on the other side of
Yeah,
Belle
yeah,
Isle.
you know what I mean? Like, I was like, there's land over there. Like, there's something over there, but it's
Yep.
not our world.
Yep.
And then when she would take us to her office, I'm like, man, where did all the black people go?
Hilarious. This is different. And what era are we talking to?
So this is late 90s, early 2000s,
Okay,
right? So I'm born in 94, so this
Mhm.
is like late 90s when I'm going to her
Mhm.
office, going to work with her occasionally. And she used to drop us off usually at a babysitter's house before she went to her office. So I
Okay.
didn't go to her office all that often.
Mhm.
When I did, I noticed that telegraph boundary as a racial boundary,
Yeah.
which is weird to think of now because there's so many black people in Redford, like
Yeah.
right on the other side of the boundary.
Mhm.
But as a kid, it was just like, it was a palpable difference.
Yeah.
Not a negative one necessarily. Like my parents didn't frame it in a negative way. They were just like, it's different,
You got that
And you
right.
can see the difference.
You got that right.
Yeah. And then, at some point she got moved to like the Novi office and I had never heard of Novi until I was like 9.
And I want to uplift this too. It's another interview where I talk about this too, because like right now, especially if you're younger, Livonia, Novi, you're thinking like, okay, everything is out here. But this is also during the time as like the suburbs are expanding. So
Right.
it would be like, 12 Oaks ain't there per se, but like it'll be like a business, a community over here, and then a field, and it would have like a picture. If you guys ever seen what's that, like Back to the Future and
Yes,
stuff,
that's
like where
exactly
it's like
that's exactly what it was like.
a sketch, and you'd be like, what in the hell is going on over here? And then people be like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a Home Depot and a whole mall over here. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they would say it and you'd be like, all right, whatever.
Yep.
And then a few years later you get older and you're like, oh no, that's what they were talking about. I see it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was weird growing up in the era we did because it was the era where all those public schools were starting to close.
Definitely.
And
that too.
black families were leaving Detroit in mass exodus.
Mm.
Like my brother used to joke, the last season of Martin ends when he moves to LA.
Hilarious.
That was how a lot of Detroit stories came to a close. It was, they left Detroit. Southfield was like a big spot as a kid. Farmington Hills became kind of like that next further push out of the city to get into the suburbs. West Bloomfield eventually had a lot of Detroit kids out there.
Yeah, it often carries on, and as you said, UAD, so you're traveling and you're seeing a lot more of this too.
Right.
At UAD High School, definitely one of the, it's just definitely almost like everybody I know in the legal field. It's like chances are they went to UAD.
Yeah, Todd Perkins, who ran for mayor,
and many others.
Stephen
Bill
Henderson
McConaughey,
went to U of D. So it's crazy when I got to high school, I remember I had a better awareness of the metro area than a lot of my classmates. Because either they were from the suburbs and were rarely in the city and didn't know where they were at.
Or the opposite.
Right?
Yep.
And UAD at the time, I want to say was like a third kids from Detroit.
Yep.
But I knew from going to camp, I went to a summer camp 1 year in Oak Park. And the next year, I went to a camp in Royal Oak. So I knew how to talk to kids that were not from the city, right? The Oak Park camp was mostly Detroit kids.
I was going to say Oak Park, it's like,
it was
Oak
mostly
Park
Oak Park,
Southfield.
Detroit, Southfield kids, mostly. And then you'd get a few that were from like, I think there was one kid that lived out in like Inkster or something like that went to the camp because his dad worked over there. And then that next summer, so like summer 04, I was at camp in Royal Oak. And there were a few Detroit kids, but it was the first time where I was like a minority in a setting. And I learned like the differences very quickly. So when I get to U of D in 7th grade, that's just 2 years later, I was so adept at talking to white kids.
Hilarious.
They were like, you're from Detroit? Are you sure? Yeah, so I knew how to talk their lingo. But at the same time, I'm 12 years old or whatever. I had a lot of like resentment for the suburbs because I saw how much it took out of the city, even from a young age. I didn't necessarily have the words to articulate it yet, but you could just see it. It's like, man, like they took my friend out to the suburbs, like,
that's deep.
Or you would see, man, they were going to open this thing in the city, but they opened it on the other side of 8 Mile because they're going to make more money.
I think the biggest thing, and then they eventually move one to the city, and sometimes it had some troubled days. And you would have been probably, I think in your age, you may have been between both, but Detroit Pistons. Joe Dumars had
Joe
a
Dumars Fieldhouse. Oh,
and it was
my
way
goodness.
out. But that was
where
a place
was the other one at? Because obviously the 8 Mile one was the one that I went to most. We went because we went to it as a kid.
I know. Man, this is messing with me. Because now this is gonna mess with me all day now. Because that was way out, and that was one that was like, you got to drive all the way out here, and then they put one in the city.
And it didn't have nearly as much stuff.
No, it didn't have nearly as much stuff, and it was definitely some better days there than others.
Yeah. So the funny thing about Joe Dumars in Detroit was, like I said, our neighborhood, a lot of the kids either had a basketball rim or had access to one a few blocks away.
Yeah.
So if you ever went to Joe Dumars, those were the kids. That was their gym.
Well,
so they were used to shooting on like an actual basketball court.
I gotta add this too. So like in the world of Detroit, and people talk about like rough, tough, and hoods and all of that. Okay, you got like, people be like, oh man, Mac and B-Wook, or people would be like, oh man,
how did I know that was the one you were going to start with?
Or people be like, oh man, depending on what's on Finkel, Dexter, Exit 9, Joy Road. Let me tell you something. One of the most, what do I want to say? One of the most, what's the right term here? One of the tougher neighborhoods that I think any community in Detroit is definitely like that East State Fair community. Sometimes they'll even call it like Little Baghdad, even though like, there definitely are some people from Iraq over there, and, just Arab Americans, some African Americans.
Yeah, like immigrants.
Yes, and Black Americans. But that community is one that, it gets tough. Some of those kids will be over there too. Because it's right there. So you had some mix of culture. Let's just put it like that.
You for sure did. And it was great because me being, a kid that was sheltered and, privileged, learning how to play basketball against kids that like, they were looking at basketball as their way out.
Yes.
It showed me early on, I don't have an NBA dream. That's not.
Oh, yeah. Whole different.
Yeah, like.
Whole different hookup. Whole different hookup.
Like my NBA dream would be limited to a 2k game, you know?
You got that right.
I would live vicariously through the 04 Pistons. It was not in the cards for me.
I'm with it.
The other thing it did, I think, and again, this goes back to me starting at UAD. It helped me at a very early age kind of check myself and be like, oh, damn, I am lucky. I am privileged.
Very much so.
And I wish more young men had experiences early in life where it's like, take stock of like how lucky and fortunate you actually are.
Yes.
Because you could always be from a mile and a half away and be in a much worse situation.
Very much so. And I mean, this lives in many communities, and not just Black communities, but like this is how I basically judge like, oh, it's different over here. And I'm definitely not like diminishing, because I know it's a lot of organizing over there. It's a lot of drug rehabilitation over there. It's a lot of people that pour into that community, but it definitely is one of those tougher ones. But this is what I'm gonna say. Anytime you go outside and, definitely you see different people use drugs, and I'm not advocating or anything, but anytime people shoot up heroin and it doesn't like stop the flow of traffic or people looking, you're in a very tough neighborhood.
I had a coworker that grew up over there, and I this is the job I had right before starting college. So I had a car. It was a 2001 Ford Explorer that got like 4 miles to the gallon.
Okay.
And
hilarious.
Because I had a car, I would often be the one like, yo, when my shift ends, if you're off at the same time, I'll drive you
I'll drop you off.
I'll either drop you off at home, or I'll at least drop you to the bus stop.
Direction,
if I got to go somewhere. And I remember driving him home and just being like, yeah, the way you act at work, a lot of this makes sense. Like, of course you don't care about what the supervisor's telling you.
Mopping the floor. Yes.
Right. Like, yeah, like, of course you don't care. You've other bigger things to deal with.
You got that right.
And he certainly did.
Definitely. It can get real in that community for sure. But amongst it, you, I guess, navigating and then kind of seeing this, now I guess got to ask journalism. Do you start taking the journalism at a younger age? What's the thought process? How do you venture into that?
Yeah, that's a great question. People ask me this all the time. I initially got into journalism because in 2002, I saw this gigantic headline on the Free Press that the Red Wings had just won the Stanley Cup.
Okay.
And I was like, I want to be the person that gets to interview the Red Wings because they're the greatest team in the world. And if you don't, and I know a lot of Black people don't know hockey. And it's really Black people that grew up in my era that seem to gravitate towards it more, partially because it had become much more Americanized and more accessible. You had things like the Mighty Ducks movies that kind of introduced kids to it from an earlier age. For me, it was the dudes that have Detroit on their team name were synonymous with victory. They were synonymous with championships.
And wait, let's be clear too. 2002. I mean, of the Detroit teams, it was some like we saw what happened with the 04 Pistons, and that grew into that, but definitely the Detroit Lions, you know what I'm saying? Like, I tell anybody that's like if you're 8, 9, or 10 or something, it's like, oh, you do not have Lions history, you know?
Yeah, like 2002 is when they moved to Ford Field. I'm pretty, like 01 or 02.
The Joey Harrington years. Yeah. You remember those. Yes.
I remember when he came out of Oregon, and I thought, oh, he's the one. I was proven wrong game after game. But
so the Red Wings winning, and then it was like two waves. So you had like some of the 90s championships.
You had the 97, 98 team.
Yep.
And then basically they continued their dynasty, so to speak. And 02 was kind of like the exclamation point on that original run of champions.
Definitely. But I mean, adding Chris Chelios and Brett
Hull that season.
Yeah. Like you as Dominic
Hasek.
Yep. So like we're Black dudes, like you would watch because the Red Wings are winning, and then you start.
And they weren't just winning,
about,
man. They were like a revolutionary team. Like they were like for Boston people before the Belichick Brady era. They were a baseball fandom in Boston, right?
Very much so.
And then those two come in the door, and the 01 season happens, and they keep winning, and they keep reinventing ways to be a dynasty.
Yeah.
And now kids that grow up there, like, that is their sport, you know? For me, the Pistons were good when I was a kid, but I really grew up in their decline, right? Like, I was a little kid when Jordan won his 6th ring.
Yes.
And that was, like, the first that I really remember was his 6th. By that point, the Pistons had fallen off. Many of their best players had retired.
Grant Hill left and then was injured.
Yeah, so when Grant Hill came to the Pistons, I was a fan. I thought, oh, he's our best player, but we don't have a thing around him that's going to make him great. So, as a kid, the Red Wings were, in a lot of ways, the only thing related to Detroit that was synonymous with greatness. Yeah. So I wanted to be like the dude who gets to interview them about greatness.
Sense. That makes sense.
And as a little kid, that was as far as I thought about it.
Okay. But it stands out. And I mean, also, this is Hockey Town.
Right.
Gordie Howe, which I've never seen Gordie Howe play. I mean, other than like clips or something, but that's way back in the day. But I mean, I want to say he played like 30 years or something.
He played like a long time. Like he played with his
Brady.
He ended up playing with his kids. You know what I mean? Like
LeBron and Bronny.
Yeah, except I think his kids were a little bit better than Bronny.
Here we go. That's a real Piston fan right there. Still not like LeBron.
I'm just saying,
I'm still mad about that traveling.
Yeah, but that was when I started thinking, like, what do I want to do for a career? And it was like, I want to be the beat writer for the Red Wings.
Okay.
I was never good at math, but I was always a pretty decent writer. And my teacher in high school was like, well, whatever you do, whenever you leave here, pick something that you could do on your day off.
Interesting.
And I was like, I write when I'm not working. So.
Actually, that I mean, people say, which I think that's a better way of saying it's like, do something that you love. I think that's a better way of saying do something that you love.
Basically what she was getting at, but she meant it in like a practical, like, I'm going to break it down for the building blocks of what you're going to do someday. Do stuff that you would do on your day off. Things that I do on my day off. I talk to random people in the community. If I don't have anywhere to be and I'm stopped at like a gas station pumping gas, I will talk to the person next to me.
Okay.
Right. And that's not typical, right? I don't think most people do that.
You got that right, especially right now it's freezing.
Yeah, right. So I'm a people person. So I like to write. I like to talk to people. I like to ask a lot of questions. And she was like, you should take Mr. Evalt's journalism class next year when you get a chance. I had never taken a class with this guy. I had heard stories from other kids who had him. I knew he was like kind of a younger teacher, cooler teacher of our school. And the next day after my teacher told me that, Mrs. Redigan, who works over at Cristo Rey right now. After she told me, like, do something you love, like, consider this, Stephen Henderson, of all people, was coming to speak to the journalism class. UAD alum, Pulitzer Prize winner, was coming to speak to the journalism class. So I was like, well, fuck it. Let me try to get in this class somehow. I narrowly avoided getting a detention, which at U of D they call a JUG, J-U-G, a Justice Under God, which is just 40 minutes where you're not allowed to do anything except sit there silently. So it's just detention. But I very narrowly avoided it because I had the good sense to bring a notepad and a pen. And the teacher was like, oh, you like want to be a journalist. You were sneaking out of class to maybe further what your interests are. Then I took his class that next year, my senior year, and loved it. I was still really committed to either doing sports reporting because I still wanted to be the beat writer for the Red Wings, or as anyone who knew me in high school or middle school knows, I'm a huge hip hop head.
So like music, journalism.
Yeah, and I had gotten really fed up with Hip Hop DX, the website, because I used to religiously read their stuff, and I could see the older I got and the better I got as a writer, the quality of their writing was diminishing.
So it probably was kind of always there. But you
I became
you know what I'm
aware.
saying? It's kind of like, a lot of stuff, like when you're older and you look back at like old movies and stuff. I remember when that Dolomite movie came out that Eddie Murphy did, which is excellent.
Yes,
and then,
yes,
like,
he deserved an Oscar for that.
I certainly agree with that. Like, and, and like, especially like some of my white friends was like, man, I got to watch the real one. I was like, now. The real film, pace yourself for it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, all of those Rudy Ray Moore films, it's a product of its time. But
talk about it.
But I knew it was either those two paths I wanted to take, and then that next semester, senior year, I took a creative writing class. So now I was kind of like, I could do journalism, I could, get an MFA and teach kids poetry. Like all of those things were on the table for me.
All right.
And when I was choosing schools, my final three were Loyola Chicago, which didn't have a journalism major. And I don't think they do now. So I was kind of like, I'm not about to pay that out-of-state tuition to not have that as a major.
Do what you want to do. Yeah.
Right. And it was Michigan State, where my brother went, or Central Michigan, which is where I eventually went. And the deciding factor for me was all throughout UAD, I was a horrible student. Like I told my 8th grade students one day to guess how low my GPA was, and they never guessed it. So when I got to college, I was like, I want to go somewhere where I feel like I've got a few professors who are at least going to look out for me, help me, kind of guide me. And I had my cousin's father-in-law was a broadcasting professor at Central, Rick Sykes. He just got into the CMU Journalism Hall of Fame in the fall.
Shout out to Rick Sykes.
Yeah, he's great. And I was like, at least I'm going to have somebody, a black person who's in the department who can kind of like be like, don't do that. Stay away from this. You should take this class, like have some form of guidance. And I was really big on at the time, not as much now because, this long into my career, I've kind of forged my own path. But at the time, I was tired of being Eric's younger brother, It was like, and if I went to Michigan State, that's exactly what would have happened.
That's exactly what you'd have been, Eric's younger brother.
I'd have been in a bunch of the same organizations because we have a lot of the same interests. And I'd have been, oh, that's Huff's younger brother.
And then just the name, too. It's not like Smith or something. It's like, is Eric your brother?
And I mean, that still happens to me, and I didn't go to Michigan State. So, you know what I mean? And then at Central, I'm still on the path of either doing music journalism or sports reporting. And I covered the CMU wrestling team my freshman year for Central Michigan Life, CM Life, the student newspaper.
And wait, let me say this too. All right, so all right, definitely my age. Like you grow up in as they say, this is like pre-attitude era and stuff. So like you got wrestling that you think of, and then you got like the sport of wrestling.
Yes,
That is
very different. Yeah, so
completely, almost like they shouldn't even call whatever the WWE does as wrestling because it ain't even.
They should call it live action anime because that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on it.
It's more like
a lot of people love that.
It's more like soap operas too. And
right.
It's
It's the storyline. It's But the sport of college wrestling. So I wrestled all 4 years of high school.
Okay, so you already understood the sport, knew it,
and I had met Coach Borelli because I went to wrestling camp up at Central and died up there. Oh my goodness, that was 6 days of hell.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So when I started covering the team, it was easy because like I know the sport.
Yeah.
I knew the coach, and he had remembered me from being at the camp. So he was like, there was already a rapport there. Yeah, and they were good.
Okay,
like they were very, very good.
Okay,
the first match I covered, they blew out Michigan State.
Wow.
And it wasn't like State was bad, but it was like, this is a wrestling school.
They're really good.
Yeah. And because they were really good, it made it really easy to like follow what was happening and cover the team from afar and interview the coach after the matches were over and get access to the guys on the team. When you got guys that are like really good and they're winning a lot, they want to talk.
You got that right.
Yeah. So as a freshman in the journalism program and didn't know a lot about interviewing people and didn't know a lot about how this works, it was an easy way to like at least have an in with a team on the campus. And I was still pretty committed to doing that until the summer between my sophomore and junior year. So that's summer 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And as everybody knows, summer 2014 in August, in a suburb of St. Louis called Ferguson, Missouri, Mike Brown gets shot and killed by a cop.
Yeah.
And I went to my internship the next day, and I'm around a bunch of like older journalists. Not a bunch, it was a smaller newsroom, but I'm around all these older folks who I think are going to mention this, and all day long, I'm like waiting for one of them to say something so I can start talking about it, and no one mentions it like at all. Now, granted, they were not covering like hard news there. This was a conglomerate of radio stations. We were writing stories for like 101 The Riff and I can't remember what the sports station was. Not 97.1, but the other sports station that's a little less popular.
I forget the name of that one too.
Yeah, but we would write the web stories for them.
Okay.
So I'm expecting like we're going to get done talking about whatever celebrity did something stupid and we're then going to talk about this because this is some crazy stuff happening.
Yeah. And also, we have to point out definitely so much happened in Ferguson, but I think that the attention to what happened in Ferguson is only heightened because of what happened with Trayvon Martin before this.
Yes. So these were things that were already on my mind that I wanted to talk about, but I maybe didn't want to make a career out of or anything. But that day when I'm like waiting for them to say something and no one does, it's like, okay, so I can use these skills I have to force people to talk about things that matter. And that was kind of when the flip got switched or the switch got flipped. And from that point forward, I was like, I want to do more investigative stuff. I want to do more stuff about the Black student experience.
Wow.
And then the rest of my time at Central, I was busy doing journalism stuff, also being an activist. Somehow those two things never bumped up against each other. I got very lucky in the stuff that I chose to cover. And I was still doing the poetry stuff. So then when I'm getting ready to graduate, I don't have a job lined up. Like I hadn't done any internships that were paid. I had done 3, but they were all unpaid. And I was like, I just need a job in some newsroom somewhere and I will work my way to doing the stuff I want to do. And my friend Ariel Hines was like, Michigan Radio in Ann Arbor. I mean, you're in Detroit. It's a 45-minute drive. They pay their interns.
Okay. Well, shout out Ariel.
Yeah, and I got very, very lucky to get that internship that summer, 2016.
Okay.
And that was my first time really reading about state politics. Like when the job started, and I'm sure Vince Duffy is going to see this at some point. I did not know the difference between the state house
and congressional house.
Yeah, like I didn't know.
But it speeds up fast. And also 2016 is like some of these years, like become more the older you get, I don't mean to say it like this, but I guess it just starts feeling like this. The older you get, the more you like, I've seen things before. But definitely
Certain
in a
things stand
college
out.
town, in 2016 was the original Donald Trump election.
Yeah, and Malachi and me both graduated 2016 from Central.
Mhm.
Oh, I should also point out,
Mhm.
in 2012, when I took my first journalism class, Malachi Barrett was in that class.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I've known him since then.
All right.
But yeah, when we graduated,
Yeah.
all of us in journalism and media, we all graduated assuming Hillary Clinton was going to be the next president.
Yeah, I mean, and this is also this goes right into the world of journalism and media at the time too, because at this point, I think we had a right now, what we define as news, what we define as media, journalism, trusted. Things have definitely shifted in this content world, but in 2016. As people put up all these pictures and stuff, but 10 years ago, the news was just more so like kept all of this attention around Donald Trump. Like, you can't believe this. This is preposterous.
It was,
it was more like
he dominated the
what
news
is
cycle.
he doing? What ignorant stuff is he doing right now? He's doing another rally. People are going to these rallies. He's going down the escalator the wrong way. I mean, this is ridiculous.
And it led the way for him to gain a lot of popularity and momentum.
Very much so.
And I got very lucky that Michigan radio, because of the station's in Ann Arbor, right? So I had to drive from Detroit to Ann Arbor every day. And occasionally I would be on an assignment that was not in Ann Arbor. I would drive to the Ann Arbor station. Sometime around 10, 11, I'd be like, I got to go out to this thing. So I was going to different parts of the state that were not Detroit.
Yeah.
And they were not college towns.
And you're seeing
and
a
I'm
lot
starting
more
to see
Make America Great Again.
Yeah, and I'm starting to meet these people and talk to these people and get an understanding that, like, oh, these are the people that are about to, like, really come out for him in droves.
Yeah.
And while I don't think I expected him to win, there wasn't that whiplash that a lot of other people, I think, had. For me, it was like when it happened, it felt like a gut punch, but it wasn't a sucker punch.
Yeah.
We saw the gut punch coming and didn't defend it.
I think also, I mean, just in that time, because like politically, a lot's just happening at that time, but also Bernie Sanders with a lot of what he was speaking to,
he
galvanizing
college
crowds and
campuses.
like a whole nother movement of people too, were built in like some of that movement. I mean, it didn't like MAGA as a name. I don't know what Bernie group's name was or whatever, but that was galvanizing a lot of attention too. Like, this is 10 years ago. It seems like that long ago, but it's actually 10 years back.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember the Bernie craze on campus, going back into 2015 when the race was starting to heat up and candidates were starting to get their messages out. Bernie really dominated on most college campuses.
Oh, yeah.
Hillary had a lot of support too. You know, there were a lot of people. It just felt like she was the safer pick. But his supporters were coming through with literature, and they were like, "Did you know back in the day when they repealed this and that is how we got here?" And it was all about the stuff that you heard Mamdani talking about in his race in New York. I
never tied those two together, but now that you say it, yes,
it was about
like right
affordability.
There.
It was about you, the American people, are not getting what
you're
owed. And I think MAGA also spoke to that, just in a very different language.
Lens,
And it's why so many people were so diehard about him.
Yeah,
it was. He's exposing this truth that they don't want you to know.
Drain the swamp.
Right. And thank the Lord I had already graduated by the time that day came. Because the day after the election, right, I'm at the station in Ann Arbor, and there's this vigil that's supposed to happen at U of M's Diag, which is this big, like the big mall on their campus. And I go and I'm talking to students and they're freaking out. Understandably so, right? And, as a journalist, you're not really supposed to assure people that things are going to be fine. But any black student I found, I was like, hey, man, like our ancestors went through this, and I'm sure your parents have gone through. Like, we're going to be all right, right? I had been playing Kendrick Lamar's All Right for a lot of that day. Did I believe it? I don't know. But I was saying it to people, and I think looking back, really 9+ years ago.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the stuff I was saying to the students was well-intentioned but misguided.
Yeah, it's it's a lot to kind of unpack, but it also is interesting that you're there at those moments and like also to not just capture it for who you're working with, but also that you were able to kind of work that footprint because it and right now it's even more crystallized just how divisive and divided and segmented our nation can be, that you have no idea, because some of it is just very small, similar to like the Detroit and what's not happening in Detroit, because you like 15 miles out
is a different world, right?
completely.
When I was a kid, not even a little kid, I was in high school. The first time I went to Romeo, Michigan was for this like wrestling scrimmage thing that they did out there every year.
Yep.
And I remember reading the thing that our coach printed off for us, because this is 08, right? So people are still printing off directions.
Yeah.
And it said 32 mile. And I looked at my best friend Asher, and I'm looking at him and I'm like, there's 32 of them, bro? Like, it goes up that far?
Bro, I mean, I've been a truck driver before. You'd be surprised how far that goes. And
bro, because I'm like 32?
Yeah, how interesting. And then some of them, like, Metro Parkway is 16 miles.
Yes.
It's some of them, Hall Road is 20 miles. Like,
I used to know them all the way up to 28.
Yeah.
I used to be able to rattle them off because of, I used to sell Cutco.
Okay.
Cutco knives.
Okay.
And my office, my district office was in Shelby Township. So I had to know all of like the Macomb suburbs. I had already been pretty familiar with Oakland County just because so many U of D kids live in random parts of Oakland County.
Yep.
I got really acclimated with like the downriver area when I was an intern at Michigan Radio, because I'd occasionally be doing stories down there. So a lot of my geography of the state came from like jobs I've had.
Yeah.
And then when I went to Grand Rapids in 2017, I had to learn all of West Michigan.
Yeah. And I definitely am not as familiar there, but this footprint, definitely this footprint. Actually, I had a route to Dayton, Ohio. So almost like I know so many like offshoot bakeries and all this type of stuff, like just up and down 75, like, and I remember I used to tell people, it's like, yep, that's a good grocery store. I never shop there.
Yeah. If you know the grocery stores to avoid and which ones to go to, you could probably do some tours for people.
Yeah. Also, you're in a fancy grocery store when they have like, cause it's like a lot of dairy products, like I say, like,
when they have the whole like section thing of just cheeses that are not like name brands that you're gonna find everywhere.
I mean, like a block of cheese like this, like
this
they got
big,
the
3 and
it cost $50, and it's like,
and people be buying it.
Yeah.
Like when they have a whole section for things that would go on a charcuterie board.
Yeah.
And you've never heard of any of the brands, like
yep, it's going to be that is a store that, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it'll make Whole Foods seem like Aldi's. So yeah, man. So you're traveling this space. I know because we actually worked on the project connected to Bridge. How do you end up at Bridge?
Yeah, so I ended up at Bridge. I was at Michigan Radio. I was there from basically when I graduated. I was in the Ann Arbor office until I moved out to West Michigan to be in their Grand Rapids office. I'd been in GR for 3 years when the pandemic hit.
Okay.
And 2 things had become abundantly clear to me. I didn't want to do daily spot news anymore.
Okay.
And I wanted to be back in Detroit. So it was like, at some point, my tolerance for doing spot news, for people that don't know, is those daily short stories you hear on air when you're like in the car listening to NPR.
Yep.
And they take a really long time to produce. And
very much so.
And they typically go in one ear, out the other for a lot of listeners.
Let me uplift 2 things connected to that. So people sometimes think like, because it's shorter, it's easier. No, it makes it even way more difficult, because basically what you're saying is like, it's like you're given damn near like a 10-page report on the auto show, but you got to make this like 30 seconds of,
Right.
it's like, hey, Toyota is coming in and they have these 2 new models and they're going to, have this go out for the auto show.
And then you have to make things that are scientific, conversational.
Yeah.
I was out in West Michigan when the PFAS story like really exploded. The forever chemicals that you hear about. That story, thanks to Garrett Ellison at MLive. Shout out to him because his reporting really led the way on a lot of that stuff. It was like exploding and people were like, do we have another Flint water crisis on our hands? This is 2017, right? So Flint water crisis was fresh in people's minds. So I was trying to break down what that is for people in 35, 40 seconds. And it's exhausting.
Yeah.
So you'd sit in like a town hall where hundreds of community members would come out to ask questions, and they'd have scientists, and they'd have people with, before it was EGLE, before it was the Department of Energy or Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, it was the Department of Environmental Quality. So you'd have all the DEQ people, occasionally you'd have EPA people, and you'd have like all this stuff to like synthesize into 35 seconds.
Yep.
And because it was so short, a lot of people didn't pay that much attention to it. Like the people in the area did, because it was where they'd hear where they live and they'd be like, oh, what?
What's going on?
But because we were a statewide outlet, you'd be producing something about West Michigan, and people here in Detroit were like, well, we don't got that here. We don't care.
Yeah.
Even though we definitely have PFAS in this area. But I had been doing it for long enough that I knew I wanted to do something that was a little bit longer form regularly, because I had done features. I did the podcast with them, same, different in 2019, but I wanted to do more long form stuff, and I wanted to be back in Detroit. I don't know how Stephen Henderson knew this. To this day, I have never really point blank asked him how he knew, but he knew I wanted to be back in Detroit. So he hits me up on Facebook one day, and he's like, hey, I don't know if you heard, there's this new outlet starting. I want you to apply.
Wow.
So I was like, cool, let's talk on the phone about it. Because at this point, the good
like,
thing...
I'm guessing you talked to him since before, way back then. Over time. Okay.
But I haven't point blank asked him how he knew I wanted to be back in Detroit. I think I assume he talked to someone at WDET, because I had been talking to them about like, if I was to come back to Detroit, what that would look like. And he hit me up. It was a Friday afternoon. I'll never forget this, because this has never happened to me. He called me. It was like 5:00 on the dot, which if you know Stephen Henderson, he's not always the most punctual person. So for him to call at 5:00 on the dot means something. So he calls me. We talked for like 30 minutes about like what the job is, what he's trying to build. And he kept saying over and over again, it's for the community. It's about the community. It is community centered. He had to say the word community about 50 times in a 30-minute conversation.
Hilarious. When I interview him, I'm definitely going to bring that up, and I'm sure I already hear the laugh.
And he kept saying it, and I was like, man, like he's hitting on the stuff that I want in a job. I had never really worked professionally in print, though. So I was a little intimidated about like, print reporting is
different field.
It's a different beast, right? And Michigan radio is a pretty cushy job for a young reporter. I got to really expand on like how I play with conversational writing and tone, and I had been able to do all sorts of cool projects and things. But he eventually just said, cool, sounds like you're interested, without me saying it. But he was like, sounds like you're interested. I'm just going to send you an offer sheet on Monday.
Wow.
And I was like, cool, I'm a fill out the app, and I, for whatever reason, didn't fill out the app that weekend. I was like, I'll probably just fill it out during the week when I'm working. And in my inbox Monday morning at 8:30 in the morning was an offer sheet from Bridge Detroit.
Wow. And
I was like, oh, he was not bluffing. Like he really wants me to have this job. So I was nervous about it, because I would be moving back to Detroit during the pandemic, right? So it's like I'm moving back home, but it's not gonna be home exactly. But I talked to two of my folks at Michigan Radio. Dustin was in the Grand Rapids office with me, but he had been out. He had heart surgery, so he wasn't working, but he was in GR. So I text him, and I'm like, hey, man, like, I just got this offer. How should I be evaluating this? And he just goes like, you want to be back in Detroit? Take it. Like, what you mean? Like, if you don't like the job in 6 months, work somewhere else. And then I talked to Sarah Hewlett, who now works at Outlier. Who was like my first editor at Michigan Radio. And she's like, when I texted her about it, she just assumed I already accepted the job,
Okay.
right? And she's like, "Oh wow, congrats, that's
Congratulations.
amazing, right?"
Yeah.
And from there, it was kind of like their reactions to it made it seem like, oh, this is just the obvious thing to do.
Yeah.
And I was sold basically when I saw the offer sheet and saw like how serious they were about getting me back to Detroit. And I knew right away, man, I'm gonna still have to do a lot of pandemic stories, but I get to take time with it. I get to have longer pieces that, in those early days, for people that read Bridge Detroit now, we function much more like a daily does than we did at the start.
Yeah, it was very like narrative. It felt way more like in the beginning to me, like kind of like the difference between like watching my best example, like watching like a Dateline series like in the beginning, whereas now it feels way more like, as you say, like news on the beat. You still have some long form pieces that exist, but it's way more you really got a lot of storytelling. It was a lot of narrative, getting like background and perspective of a lot of stuff that was being delivered.
Yes. And Catherine Kelly, who used to be at the Michigan Citizen, shout out to the Michigan Citizen. She really made an emphasis early on, like, hey, the story's not ready. We're not publishing it. Like, we're going to get the story ready. We're going to get the perspectives we need. So I would do stories that would take like a week or two to finish. And when they came out, I was always thankful that I had an editor.
That little bit of time,
it just gave me that little bit of extra time to reach out to that one extra person, get that one extra quote in there, get that one extra perspective. Because, this is a time when no one knows what Bridge Detroit is, right? Like, we were brand new. They did not have to tell us these things. They did not have to share their stories with us. And I didn't really realize we had caught traction probably until I did a story on sundown towns, like the history of sundown towns in Metro Detroit. There was a writer who wrote about it. And I saw someone posted about his book, and I was like, I'm just interested in this. So I reached out to the guy, and I didn't know that people really knew who we were yet until I kept seeing people say, oh, if you're not reading Bridge Detroit, you need to be, because they do stories like this.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, snap.
That's
like,
deep.
people know who we are now. Like, we're starting to become like a force in the city's like news landscape. And then when it really hit me, like, oh, we're here to stay, was the 2020 election. 2020 was crazy because unlike 2016, no one was going to be surprised by any outcome at that point. The days of like an upset were kind of over, at least for now. We'll get back to that in 2024. But the thing was, Donald Trump had been telling his base the election is stolen months before election day. So by the time election day came, you had all these non-Detroiters downtown trying to stop the vote count. And this is November 4th, 2020. I'll never forget the date because that was my sister's birthday.
Wow.
And her now husband was like, hey, I'm going to propose tonight. Here is where I will be. Be there so you can see it. And I couldn't because of all the people trying to stop the vote.
I mean, what happened is, shout out to Summer Woods. I know definitely representing there, but and then like a lot of that push, and it kind of ends up in some archival history, I think, to certain people, but that was real.
It was very real.
And what was happening, and people looking to, God, I mean, January 6th, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean,
right.
It
was crazy because when it was happening, I don't think I realized like how significant it was that I was there for it. I think at the time I was annoyed that I was going to miss my sister's birthday and the engagement, but I was also worried for my safety and the safety of a few other people that were around, because it was mostly non-Detroiters, mostly white folks down here,
and a lot of more middle-aged and maybe a little bit younger, or enough of the middle-aged, a little bit younger white men. And if you guys have ever been to like a poll and poll workers, a lot of them, especially like in the city of Detroit, we're looking at like middle-aged, a lot of black women. You know,
a lot of older black women.
Yeah, so this dynamic definitely does not, historically ode well, especially when you have an angry white man yelling and Black women being like at this point really standing in the standing up for justice of how things are supposed to go.
Right.
And we also have the other looming realities of sometimes even with what happens with the clerk already, people question these elections all the time. I think
right. And then there's the mix of I had covered a lot of the 2020 George Floyd protests for Bridge Detroit. I was out at a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
And James Craig's rhetoric about protesting had become so
very much so.
Well known at this point. It was a national thing.
Yeah.
When he said he was going to let these people just kind of demonstrate and do what they're doing as long as they're peaceful, that was a sign to me things could get hectic and I will not be helped by police.
Yeah.
At least not right away.
Yeah.
Like my hope was that these people would eventually get bored by the process of counting votes and go home. And that did not happen until very late into the night.
And two things, and I got to go back to something else I want to go back to just on like culture questioning. But
got you.
Also, the George Floyd protest and the police response here from that police department led by James Craig, and a lot of things are happening during that time because it's COVID-19, but a lot of the stories that I think still will be coming out and written, possibly I could see like documentaries, maybe even movies, you would be surprised. Some of the things that happened that involved what took place in our city. And like, because, it's still a lot of things I think that need to be addressed. You guys, you were definitely on it and other people on the beat of some of it.
Yeah.
And I know even some that, no one really can speak to because it's like still a lot of legal things kind of between a lot of that's I don't want to say settling, but that's, for lack of a better term, still kind of coming together. I just want to point that out.
Yes. It was a wild time to come back to Detroit. So I had covered, when I was in Grand Rapids, the two biggest things I covered were the PFAS groundwater contamination crisis and the Grand Rapids Police Department's treatment of young Black and brown people.
Yeah.
So when I got here, my first day was the day of that first George Floyd protest downtown.
Yeah.
And I did not go because it wasn't, I had officially not technically started. I was here, but I hadn't started. So I was like, I'm gonna tune in, make sure things don't get crazy. I had a few contacts in the police department. I had a few people I knew that were at the protest.
To the protest, yeah.
And when they were telling me how crazy it got, that was when it was like, okay, this is gonna be a thing all summer. And I was like, well, now I don't have to. At the time, we're new. We're figuring out who's going to cover what beat. I didn't have to worry after that. I was like, that's my beat.
Got you. And
so
is, definitely picking up in the path, really. I mean, when we go back further in your story, but like this goes right to the Mike Brown.
Right. Yeah. So it was a massive through line for me that this was going to be like the first thing I'm doing covering stuff for a Detroit publication. The only Detroit specific publication I really worked for at that point in my life had been Deadline Detroit, Alan Langel's paper. Yeah. And that was like when I was an unpaid intern.
Yeah, I haven't, but I remember Deadline I met him through my guys, IT in the Deep back in the day. They would hook some things up. But the other cultural question that I was going to make is, as much as people talk about Ann Arbor does have an arc of conservatism there. Definitely too, but
it just looks very different.
Yeah, but I it's like kind of like I think Grand Rapids and Ann Arbor are like kind of like like Bizarre World Supermans or something sometimes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And I just wanted to get just your take on that because it's like always like, okay, if you want like what's happening in one world, that's definitely like a Grand Rapids world versus the Ann Arbor world. It's just interesting the way that I see like certain things so similar but so opposite in both those places. That's all.
Oh yeah. I mean, Ann Arbor, so when I was a kid, Ann Arbor was seen as kind of like the way Berkeley is seen out in California. Like it's this place where all these crazy liberal ideas can come forward and be basically resourced. And galvanized and can kind of like a little flame of a liberal idea can kind of grow into a massive fire.
Yeah.
When I got older and finally spent some time in Ann Arbor, the first thing is I grew up as a Michigan State fan because my mom went there, my brother went there.
Gotcha.
So go white. So I automatically was like off put by the kind of elitism in how they
Yeah, the
referenced the university.
the Michigan man, and all of that.
Yeah, like there was already some of that I was like uncomfortable with just being me.
Yeah.
When I worked there, I noticed how easily that could be flipped because, you know, as a Michigan radio employee, now they're Michigan Public.
Yeah.
U of M owns the station's license. So I was a U of M employee, and that little ID card or whatever gave me a lot more leeway in the city of Ann Arbor. And I never noticed that would be such a thing for me. I didn't know that would open doors. Grand Rapids is different.
Yeah.
So Grand Rapids and Detroit, I think, have a shared history of the conservatism you see is through the church. The church is a massive institution in both cities.
Very much
in
so.
Grand Rapids, it's the Christian Reformed Church. So you have a bunch of Christian universities there. You have Calvin, which used to be Calvin College. I sometimes still call it that because I think it just sounds better with the alliteration. You have Hope in Holland, so not far from there. You have Kuiper College. There's a bunch of schools there. And then you have Grand Valley, which is a public university.
Yeah.
But a lot of that money that they got, especially for the downtown campus, is DeVos Van Andel money. Similar to like the Dan Gilbert Illich breakdown of how like they run downtown Detroit.
Yeah.
The Van Andels and the DeVosses run downtown Grand Rapids. They are wealthy. And the brand of like the creative community in Grand Rapids is people that are kind of trying to resist that cultural norm, but they kind of need the money that comes through that cultural norm to make it happen. And I see the same thing here, where it's like a lot of our creatives want to buck back against a lot of the stuff that they don't like here. But a lot of the money that makes those people become prominent comes through those channels.
Yeah, a lot of those foundations. It's like,
Right.
I don't want to be the next Tyree Guyton. I want to get paid.
Right.
Which, in a lot of ways, that's a deeper discussion to have another day,
Right,
another time,
right,
based on whatever your project is. But I like the way you. I like the way. you
So
frame it.
I saw a lot of similarities there. Now the obviously the big differences that you're going to notice are Grand Rapids is not a black city. It's about 14% black. It sounds disrespectful to say this, but like Grand Rapids doesn't have like a bunch of hoods. Like we were talking about East State Fair, they don't have a bunch of areas that like you could just rattle off like, oh, that's a rough area. What they have are some areas that haven't received the same economic development. But like the neighborhoods will look nice. Like I remember when I first moved there, this is summer 2017, and my boss, Vince, was just like, just get lost. Just drive around, meet people.
Interesting.
Find your way around. Find some interesting restaurants. Like don't get in trouble, but like get lost. So I'm driving around to different parts and I'm asking people everywhere I go, like kind of like, where should I go? Where should I not go? Where are cool things to do? And a bunch of the folks there will say like, oh man, that southeast side is rough. So I'm like, cool. I want to eat. Whenever I'm in a city, I like to go to the rough parts to eat.
Okay.
That's where I get the best food for cheap.
Okay, that actually is not a bad science.
You can't do it in every city, but that's what I do.
Depending upon how far you are out the country, how many. Definitely, I mean, as a man, it's different.
I got
a lot of women
that
in your
masculine
party.
privilege. So
definitely.
But I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna hit the southeast side and try to find something to eat. And I'm driving, and I'm like, oh, is this the hood they were talking about? Like, neighbors are waving and people are taking care of their lawns, and some of the houses look a little more run down. But when you're coming from Detroit, like when people say like, oh, that's a rough area, you have a certain image in your mind,
very much so,
that doesn't really exist in Grand Rapids. You have some areas that have been kind of neglected, but lots of strong communities. It's also a smaller city, so it's much easier to navigate. The navigating there is confusing because so many of the streets curve at some point. But like, I don't think I ever had a drive in the city that was longer than 25 minutes.
Okay.
And in Detroit, it's very easy to get stuck in traffic and be sitting somewhere for a long time.
Well, that and depending upon the direction in which you're going, you can be. It can literally, and I know people be like, but I'm just over here. And it's like, and I'm very close to anybody that's ever come to Detroit is different. I'm close to many freeways, but it's certain spaces and places that are just like, okay, that's
That's far.
It's gonna take a minute for me to get over there, even though you're in the city. Like, I mean, if I'm going Brightmoor, like Finkel and like Telegraph, I'm like, that's
and even from here, like that's like a
it's
20-minute drive depending on the traffic. You know,
what I'm
and in
saying?
Grand Rapids, like you're never gonna have a drive that's that long, which I appreciate it because even leaving a place at rush hour, I'm in the car for like 20 minutes.
And that right there is smooth, especially like when you compare it to like all my friends in DC or LA.
Right.
Atlanta's definitely become one of those cities right now. Got a trip to Houston soon. And they're like, oh, it's crazy in Houston because it's just so big.
Yes.
And as I guess we get to this close, man, I want to talk about like, you've already talked a little bit about some things happen politically. I also know you've written on some movies and some things, but 2026, what's your creative plans? What's your vision? Where do you see, and along with as you uplifted some of this being like audio journalism and broadcast, and you definitely are getting into like cutting up some edits with video too. Where do you see some of the creativity going this year?
Yeah, so creativity wise, this year, Bridge Detroit's really focused on trying to get more video content up there.
I'm with it.
A lot of the videos you see on our social media, I either edited or shot. Usually both.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure that the rest of the team kind of gets up to speed on some of those skills, so I'm not the only one doing it. That's going to be a big focus. You'll see a lot more, and you probably already noticed. Like you'll see a lot more of our stuff popping up on your feed just because of that.
Okay.
Later in the year, this isn't a creative thing, but I wanted to say it because I'm on the subject of Bridge Detroit. We're going to be launching our Porchside series.
Okay.
Every year since 2022, we've done a summer conversation series. Last year, we focused on the election, so it was Meet the Candidates. It was all political. It was all about the election. This year, Porchside, instead of us inviting community members out to some place that we rent, it's really about them inviting us to their home, to their neighborhood meeting, so we can get very hyper-local about issues and talk about, how can residents advocate for themselves? Civic accountability is kind of like our phrase for this year. Last year it was just election. This year, civic accountability, civic engagement. So Porchside, we're going to be focused in District 5, which you are now a resident
I'm a part of. It's like almost everybody's part of District 5.
Right, yeah. And that's part of why we want to do D5. It's not only does D5 have a new council person, Renata Miller. Congrats again on winning that race, because that was the tightest of the council races, I'm pretty sure. So congrats to her for getting in office. But it's the only district in the city that now, after redistricting, has both East and West Side in it. It has the biggest disparity in income in the district, in the city.
You got that
you know
right.
what I mean?
You got that right.
Right. So we're going to focus in D5. We're hoping to hit maybe 5-6 of these events for Porchside. So if you're a D5 resident and you want to have some journalists come out to your place, we're going to be doing this between April and September. Because I am a wimp about the cold, and I am not going to be sitting on a porch when it's cold.
I don't blame you, brother. I don't blame you, brother.
So yeah, the whole goal is just get like really intimately familiar with District 5, get intimately familiar with some of the different problems that you see, because it is a district that has such different neighborhoods in it. You have Indian Village and Island View. Already right next to each other, but very different neighborhoods.
Completely.
Then you go across the freeway, you have the downtown, midtown area. Then you have, on the other side, you have like the New Center, Virginia Park area. And then all the way over here to Hope Village.
Hope Village.
It's such a different part of the city, depending on where in District 5 you're at, that, we want to just make sure that we learn the district, learn the communities, really get invested in what's happening on your block, on your street, to figure out how you can advocate for yourself, how you can get involved. Maybe if you are not involved already, if you are involved, how you get younger people involved, because that's a struggle that we see in every neighborhood.
I was going to say in America.
It's how do you get those young, angry kids that want to protest to come to a community meeting and talk about the issues that are happening right here where they have control of things. So that's what that's a big goal of ours for Bridge Detroit in 2026. I'm also going to be stopping by some classrooms to talk to the kids.
I'm with that.
About how to get involved in civics from an early age before you can vote. One of the things about my upbringing is my parents made sure that we were always in the room for political conversations.
Interesting.
So the first that I can vividly remember is the 2000 election being stolen.
Yeah, that was my first election I voted for.
Right. And I remember my parents just being like, how can they just get away with that? Like, how is that happening? And as a 6-year-old, like, I didn't really get what was happening, but I could see the frustration in their faces. So, from a very young age, I was encouraged to read the news and kind of have some general awareness, clearly not a ton, because as I told you, when I started at Michigan Radio, I didn't know nothing about state politics.
It is what it is. I mean, most people kind of don't. This has been something I've uplifted for years, that my mother had a local civics class when she went to Central, and she graduated in 1967. And one person that always kept that, so rest in peace to my mom, but also rest in peace to Dolores Bennett, the godmother of the North End. She used to keep like the pamphlets of the stuff too. But like a lot of what people learn about anything outside of really, I'm gonna be like high school, they kind of teach you the Constitution, but even the way that that's written, it's not like, you know what I'm saying? Like James, you're not interviewing James Madison, you know what I'm saying? So like it doesn't like get to like, this is what they do, this is the functionality, this is how you know what I'm saying? It never, like, a lot of what you learn is really from people that are in the game.
Right. And that's kind of where I want to start. I want to build, so it's 3 levels to it, right? Yeah. It's the basics of what does it say on paper? What does the city charter say about these roles, about these duties? Yeah. What is the actual function supposed to be? Then there's the second part, the messy middle ground. Yeah. Malachi, if you're listening, this is where I'm gonna need your help, because you're much more intimately in this work right now than me.
Definitely.
And it's teaching kids like, hey, this is what it says. Yeah. Here's how it works. Here's how it actually happens on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. And then part 3, which is really important, it's the middle part is going to lose a lot of people, because it's the messy, in the weeds of, man, they say this, but they do that. Don't get lost there, because part 3 is, what can you do about it? Yeah. And I'm specifically aiming it at kids. So it's like, what can you, as someone who can't vote them out of power, do about the things you see in your city? Yeah. So yeah, I've got a couple classes lined up I'm already going to speak at. Adding more to that list as we go.
I'm with it.
So yeah, those are my big focuses in 2026 for Bridge Detroit. Just really building on civic accountability. How do you get people civically engaged? Because every election, we keep talking about these low turnout numbers. Yeah. And I think that's only half the story. Like, I think there's a whole bunch of people that would be doing something other than voting if you aimed them at what they could be doing.
I agree. It was an article, I think, that broke out in many discussions. I think the Free Press ran an article this summer about like the low voter turnout and why.
Yep. Nancy Caffer, I believe, wrote that.
And it broke out into a lot of discussions. But I mean, that's really serious, because at the root of a lot of this, and this is also like everything, it's like 2 things could be true. But
yes,
like, do I think there are outside interests that are looking to heighten the apathy in especially like a Black community? Yes. But do I also think that there are people legitimately making the choice to not vote as a protest about what they feel as though they have not gotten from the political structure?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's like both those things are true. And I don't think to try to dismiss the other should be uplifted either. So hence that functionality about like how to civically engage is so important.
Yeah. And I think if you start it with people young, and I mean, I taught middle school. I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
That's
so
yeah.
Shout out to Verner Elementary and Burton International Academy. But when I was teaching middle school, it like dawned on me that kids are not being given the tools to advocate for themselves. Yeah. Some of the kids know how to do that just from having parents that are in that world, or being particularly astute in a certain way. But that's not going to help a city where that's not most people, right? So you have to give the average person like a thing that they can actively do to improve their situation, or to improve the situation of someone else.
I mean, you can't jump in the game if you don't know how to play it.
Right. And a lot of schools are not teaching kids how to play the game on their home court. They're teaching them about a game on a court that they're never going to see. Yeah. And if they see that court, it's not going to be a fair game. Yeah. So why not give kids the tools to at least know how to, make some noise and buck back against things that they don't like?
True indeed. True indeed. All right, so with that, close with the classic Detroit is different questions. Now for you. Very first car, year, make, and model, year you got it.
That I bought or was given to me?
Hey, whatever, however you define it.
It was a black and gold 01 Ford Explorer. Got about 4 miles to the gallon.
Okay, that the ride from the job. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Where's the first place you went when you got it?
The first place I went when I got the car was school.
Okay.
I got it, and then I had to go to school to go to practice.
Okay, there you go. But hey, it's not a better feeling than like not having the ride and going to school, especially for me because I was on the bus, and it's like, boy, like that last ride on the Dexter bus was a great day. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Ride.
Yeah,
but
you drove by your bus route and honked the horn.
A great day.
And this was before all the buses had AC on them.
I know it was messed up too because I got my grandma's car too, and then it was like then I needed some repairs. It took a month. I was getting clowned by everybody back on the bus. It was like, ain't this something? Yep. Ain't this something? Yep. Car repair immediately. All right, you're the DJ at the end of the fireworks. You get to play 2 songs, Woodward and Jefferson. What songs you playing?
Ooh. At the end of the fireworks?
Yep.
I'm going to play the Go Crazy remix by Young Jeezy.
Okay, I'm with that.
Because even though he's not from here, he definitely feels like he's from 7 Mile.
I think it's more Detroiters that are rocking with them than sometimes people in the ATL sometimes.
Facts. And then if I'm going to close it out, this is a weird choice, but it's a song that I think just works.
Okay.
Superstition by Stevie Wonder.
I'm with you.
Because no matter what version of the song you find to play, whether it's a live recording or like a special session that he did with somebody, every version sounds incredible.
I'm with it. You get no pushback from me and Stevie Wonder, even to this day. And I've gone to, I'm not the biggest concert person goer, but like the Detroit 300th anniversary with Stevie Wonder is still, I think, like one of the best concerts I've ever been to in my life.
Yeah. I still, on all my dating app profiles, I still mention like I met Stevie Wonder.
There you go.
Because he's Stevie Wonder, right? Like,
yeah,
who doesn't
that
like
should
Stevie
be a
Wonder?
delineating decision right there.
Right.
All right, and last question. You could rename Woodward after one Detroiter. Who would it be and why?
It's funny. I was ready to have an answer, and then I thought about it.
Uh-huh.
If I was going to rename it after any Detroiter, I'd probably name it. I'm biased. I would name it after Jamon Jordan, who's the city historian, because every time I talk to him, I learn something new about my city. I'm from here, born and raised here, but he like holds so much knowledge about Detroit,
very much so,
how it came to be what it is for good and bad. I think I would name the street after him because he just understands the history. I got you. And actually, shout out to that. I need to get him back in here for some other stuff too. And it's like he's a Detroiter and Highland Parker. So it's yes. And that's another part of the mix. Yes, and it's like he could be all up Woodward. Yeah, like they could change it once you get to 8 Mile. They could call it Woodward again if they want. But it would be Jamon Jordan Ave. I'm with it. I know he loved that. With that being said, thank you so much. Of course, man. Peace.
Detroit is different.
Detroit is different. Detroit is different.
I can feel it.
Detroit is different. Detroit is different.
I can feel it.